Hey guys, my name is Jason with Mount Baker Mining and Metals. And on today's video, I'm going to find out how much gold is in these rocks that I brought back from an exploration trip of an old mine up in BC. And for those of you who haven't seen the first part of the video, or maybe you want to review what I did and figure out which mine I was at, I'll leave that video right after this shot so you can get caught up. For those of you who want to skip ahead right to the results, I'll leave a timestamp right up here so you can skip ahead and get right to the processing. Hey guys, my name is Jason with Mount Baker Mining and Metals, and on today's video, I've jumped across the border into Canada. I'm up in BC today, and I'm going to go look for some old gold mines a friend told me about. So let's go hike up this mountain, see if we can find the vein, and see if there's any old workings we can explore. Well, I've been scrambling up through this brush and blueberries and tag alders and all sorts of stuff, and it's getting pretty cliffy. I gotta figure out a way to scramble up some of this stuff. And supposedly up here somewhere, there's a quartz vein and some old workings. So I'll see if I can, I might try and go back up over through this way, up that little tree, and see if I can get up there. So stay tuned. Hopefully I can make it up this hill and find that vein. Well, I'm into a spot that's real rusty. I noticed all this rust oxidized staining. There's a few pieces of quartz poking up, and then I looked up the hill and there's a little veinlet there, but then look up here. It all coalesces into a little quartz stringer, quartz vein running right up the hill there. So let me go up over the top and see what we can see. Whoa, look here. Look at this big chunk of quartz. That's probably 2 or 2.5 feet across. Here's more of it. And this is that vein that we just saw. Seems like it kind of pinches and swells and goes all over, but here's the vein. That's about 9. It's about a foot across there or so. And it looks like as you go up the hill, it gets bigger. So that is a real good indication. But look how rusty it is. The redder the better, they used to say. So it's pretty rusty. Looks like some of this is where the sulfides weathered out. They got exposed to the air and water, and they oxidized away, kind of leaving that vuggy looking quartz. But this is what they were looking for when they were mining, prospecting. So let's see what we can find up around the corner. Well, here's a real nice showing of the vein on the surface. The wall rock is this dark gray, or the country rock is this dark gray. You got the streak of white coming across here. It bells out here to about 16 or 18 inches, pinches down on either side. But just up, I don't know if you can see, there's some vein up there. And then just over that little knob, I found something that I'm really excited about. I want to show you guys. Let's go take a look. Well, we're up around that knob now, and the vein's hard to see right here. There's quartz here. This is all quartzy. But look what I found right over this little hump here. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good there. It looks like they stoped down on it. All right guys, well this is pretty cool. I'm standing in a stope, and what happened here is as the vein dips down into the mountainside, the miners came in and they mined down on it. They stoped down on it. And you can see behind me, there's these big pillars that they left to hold up the mountain above their head. So the only thing holding the mountain up is those pillars behind me. So I got to go in here and do a little prospecting and not get squashed by the mountain. So I'm pretty excited. This is a new mine for me. The vein's well defined. There's some stopes, which means that they took some ore out of here. I'm hoping that I can find some gold and silver today. So let's go underground and see what we can find. Well, I'll give you guys the full meal deal here. We'll just walk down in here and see what we can see. I'll give you the first look, unveil. Gotta get down here without killing myself, because it's pretty steep. It's probably, I don't know, 45 degrees. Dipping 45 degrees. Ooh. Whoa. There we go. So looking back up, there's the vein, and it's all oxidized there. And then they mined out this area. So let's go check out what we got here. You're looking downhill. It's hard to tell on the camera. So I'll just kind of narrate as I go here. Oh yeah. Hopefully there's no bears sleeping in here. But look at that just band of sulfides that's oxidized in that vein. That's cool. That's what they were looking for. The redder the better, they used to say. And then, I don't know, it goes down here. It's almost like the vein pinched off on them right here, because they didn't stope any farther. Let's go down this way. Oh. That's where they ended the stope. It looks like there's still a vein there. And it goes down to maybe a little transfer tunnel down there. Let's see if I can get down there and see what we can find. Ooh. Yeah. No tracks. No tracks down here. But it looks like the vein, may have pinched right here. There's that little stope we were just in. And then they drifted on it here. I wonder if it ever opened back up on them. Oh, there's still some good mineralization though. But I think, looking right here, this vein's pinched down to 6 or 8 inches. Oh, look at all the moths in the wall. Flora, or fauna, I guess it's fauna. No, I don't see any vein up there. Oh, and look, the drift ends. That vein must have just pinched. Oh, what's this? There's a little something. They were going up on it. I can see a little bit of quartz there in the back. But it looks like, oh yeah, look here. See that? It just pinches down to about 2 inches. And that's as far as they went on it. Let me see if I can find out what they did behind me. Back towards where we came in there. So let me go back and we'll keep exploring. Well, we'll go do a little exploring in a minute, but I'm just fascinated with this line of sulfides here. So I'm going to get my hammer and chisel and my hammer drill out and see if I can chip off some of these sulfides. My goal is to take a bag back with me, or 2, however many I can carry, and run them through the system, the jaw crusher, hammer mill, and shaker table, and see if I can get some gold out of this stuff. But right now I just want to focus on getting some of this high grade out of here. And I won't be able to do it all in this video, so be sure to subscribe so you can get notifications when the next video comes out of me running this high grade stuff. Hopefully high grade. So let me get the hammer drill out and chisel, and we'll get chipping on this stuff. Well, here's a few pieces I chipped off, and they are solid sulfides. They look metallic. They look like metal. It's amazing. This one looks like a fine-grained gray rock, but it's just all metal sulfides. And then the top one, a little coarser grained. But that's the stuff I'm getting. I'll take you up and show you the face. Just solid, massive sulfides on the bottom there. And then it looks like you get up into a little bit of quartz here with some of that coarser grain stuff. But man, it must just be a solid band of sulfides. And then where else have I chipped? Hold on, let me make sure I don't fall over here. I got some up here, more quartz and sulfides. But look what's happening here. You've got your band of sulfides coming up like this, and it's getting closer and closer to the hanging wall. And as you come up over here, it just pinches out. It just pinches out, and then there's a little bit of staining down here, but whatever that massive sulfide band was is gone. It just pinches right off into the hanging wall. And that's why I expect they didn't do a whole lot more stoping up that way, because a lot of their metal went out. But yeah, I'm gonna go as hard as I can on this thing. It's super hard. And I'll see if I can knock some off. Try a few feather and wedges. Hopefully that'll work. Maybe down here on that bigger piece. It's kind of nice because I don't know if you can tell, but it's almost like there's a false footwall. I think that's veined down there too. But it's like there's two veins, one on top of the other, with a false footwall there. So hopefully there's enough of a weak spot there that I can get a feather and wedge, one there, and pry that big chunk of vein out of there. That's the plan. All right, YouTube, I need your help. I burned up 2 bits, went through a whole battery, drilling one hole, and it's not even, it's maybe 4 or 5 inches. I needed about 6 or 7. So does anybody, any company, anybody have any idea of a better bit or a better system? Now, when I'm drilling, I'm letting the hammer do the work. I'm not pushing on it real hard. I'm trying to clean out my cuttings. And I don't know if this quartz is just super hard, super abrasive, or what. But, I mean, I've used these things with Dan Hurd and Jeff Williams on quartz, and Dan's Ocean Picture Stone, and Jeff underground down in Nevada, and they work great. They chip away, they do all kinds of stuff. But why is my quartz such a pain? Help me out. What do I do? How do I get a hole in this quartz easier, better, faster? Leave me a comment. Thanks. Ping it right off the bat. It's not the easiest, most comfortable place to work. Come on. Ooh! You hear that? I watched it separate right there. So that's a good sign. Oh yeah. I think I bottomed out. But I got a crack to work with. Whoa. Oh man. Check that out. That is just metal everywhere. And it's interesting. You got this coarse grain stuff, this fine grain stuff, Goes off into some quartz up here. It's heavy, man, it's heavy. But look at that. That is just, it's great looking stuff. I just wish I could get more of it off the dang wall. All right, well, I've had enough of that spot. That's just a man killer up there. So let's do a little more exploring and see what else we can find. Well, down around the corner, there's a little bit more stope down here. Someone's got flags around, so someone's been in here sampling. But I'm going to go trip on the walls a little bit more and see if I can find some gold or more metal. See if I can find another heavy sulfide band that's a little easier to get. All right, guys, well, I don't know if you can see what's going on, but I've got my chisel and a big slab on the hanging wall here. And this is not really advisable. You don't want to be picking on the wall over your head. But the reason I'm doing it is there's a lot of sulfide stained quartz here that they left hanging on the wall. The wall's the hanging wall is in really good shape. And also I'm very close to the rib here. The edge of the stope is right up next to me. So I'm not too far away, but let's see if I can knock a big chunk of this off here. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's good looking stuff. Oh yeah, a lot of metal in there. So here's the face that I was working. A lot of sulfides all through there. So I'll load up the chunks I broke off of here, and I think it's about time to call it a day. I've been picking around a lot in this stope, and I haven't found a whole lot of really good looking stuff. A lot of it's white quartz. I haven't seen any free gold yet, but I sure do like that metal in there. So let me get a bag or whatever I can carry out of here, and we'll get out. Well, I was here looking at a few of these pieces, and I think there's some real fine gold right down here along the sulfides. It's interesting that they're not in this stuff. I mean, look at that massive sulfide looking stuff there. That's pretty good. Here's another piece where it's just metal everywhere. And a lot of times if there's gold in that stuff, it's real hard to spot because the gold will get stuck between the crystals of the sulfides, and as the sulfides weather, they turn kind of yellow and brassy and looking and all that fool's gold looking stuff. And so it's real hard to spot visible gold if it's in this mass of sulfides. But like with this one, where there's just a little bit of sulfides and they're fairly unweathered, it kind of stands out right in the boundary. And then I've got this big old chunk here that I'll break up and we can take a look at. Oh, I got that big slab broke up, and again, just full of metal. And man, is it heavy. I mean, that slab is probably all I want to carry out of here. I've got a little bit more in the bag, but I'm gonna get it all. I'm not leaving here without it. But look at just all the massive amount of sulfides there, all the way through that slab. So I got to get this back to the truck, which is quite a hike out of here. So let me get her loaded up in the bag. And I'm excited to see what happens with this stuff through the crusher. All right, guys, well, that's it for me today. Got our sack of rocks. I'll get that down to the truck, and then we can run it through our system, jaw crusher, hammer mill, shaker table, and see if this vein up here behind me has any gold in it. So here's a quick close-up view of our rocks now that I got them out in the light, and they're just full of sulfides. See all those sulfides? I think a lot of this is pyrrhotite, which is an iron sulfide. So here's a spot where this is that massive pyrrhotite iron sulfide. And then right up in here, there, Maybe a little bit there. I think that's chalcopyrite. So there's a little bit of copper in there with the iron and sulfur. But all of these sulfides are really good indicators if you're looking for gold. And I really like this banded stuff. You see it here, you see it on this one. I really like to see that banded stuff because it's, in the past, that's where I've had some real good luck. And it looks like this piece was right up against the hanging wall. And oftentimes you'll find a real rich zone up near the hanging or footwall, especially where it's banded like that. But our first step here is to get these weighed so we can figure out how much gold we have per ton of rock. So here's our bucket of rocks. I've got 19.2 kilograms, but the bucket weighs 1 kilogram, so we're at 18.2 kilograms for our ore sample. Now let's go run it through the processor and see what we can find. Here's a real quick walkthrough of the process. I'm going to start here with our 6x10 jaw crusher. It's going to take the raw ore and crush it down into about 1/2 inch minus pieces. Man, look at the metal in that. Once they're crushed into that bucket, I'm going to take the bucket over to the hammer mill here. And the hammer mill takes the crushed ore, kind of gravel size, and crushes it down to a fine powder. We inject water in the case here, and that turns it into a real nice slurry. The hammers swing around there and beat up everything in the case. And there's a screen that wraps around the bottom half of the mill, and it's got a 0.8 millimeter laser cut slot in it. Once the ore is small enough to come through that slot, it'll come down here on this orange chute and feed into the aluminum distributor trough onto the shaker table. All the crushed ore evenly feeds out of that distributor trough, and the heavy minerals, the sulfides and the gold, fall down into these grooves. Once the dense material gets into the grooves, the shaker table action works it across the table under the angled water bar. The gold will make a line down under the water bar, and the sulfides will get washed back towards the grooves. And the sulfides will make a line down into the number 3 middlings. The gold and the other super dense material will come down to the number 1 and the number 2 concentrates. And then all the crushed quartz and water will go down into the number 4 here and into our settling pond, where the water is recirculated back up to the hammer mill and shaker table. If you're interested in any more information on the equipment, check us out on our website, mbmmllc.com. We've got the table all shut off and wiped down, brushed off. Here's our number 1. Let's have a look at what we got here. There's our number 1 concentrates. And here's our number 2 concentrates. There's a lot more in there. I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but up there under the water bar there was a pretty good line of galena coming down. Kind of that bluish gray looking stuff. So we got a little bit of lead in there. But let's get this over and smelt these down and see how much gold we got. Here's our number 1. We got 139 grams. So we'll mix up some flux and get this smelted. Okay, for our flux, I've got 120 grams of sodium hydroxide, 30 grams of silica sand, and 50 grams of bismuth collector metal. That's what you see there in the gray. Now we'll get it all shook up and put it in a crucible and smelt it. Here's our crucible with our charge. I've got 6 or 7 old rusty nails in there for iron to help reduce any base metals in there. The collector metal will collect any gold and silver in there and bring it down to the bottom. And then we'll have our metal collector and our slag that we can then separate once we've poured it into our cone mold, which is sitting right over there. I'll put her down in our furnace and we'll get her started. Well, we had 2 disasters. My brand new number 12 crucible broke and started leaking all over the place. So I ended up pouring it into our cone mold. I didn't get it on video because I was in a big rush. And this has been sitting here overnight, so that's why it looks all kind of gooey weird and on top. And then that other one, I've read about this and heard about this. When the bismuth mixes with other metals, it'll reduce the melting point. And that's what happened here on that last run. The bismuth and that galena that we saw on the table mixed together, reduced down to lead and bismuth. And when I checked the cone mold before I poured it or dumped it out, it was less than 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And when I tipped it over, it was still kind of molten and gooey and splattered. So I just put it in here and I let it cool all night. There should be a little molten puddle of metal down here on top of all that slag, so I'm going to sacrifice this crucible. It was pretty much toast anyway. You can see there it's getting all eaten up. But I'm going to sacrifice this, get our metal out of here, get our metal out of that cone mold over there, and we'll get it cupelled and see how much gold we have. Well, let's start with our number 2 here. There we go. There's our little metal collector metal pyramid there. Let me get that knocked out of there, see what we got. So there's some of our collector metal. I keep having problems with it getting, not collecting out the bottom. See, there's a little bead of it, there's a little bead of it. And someone had a really smart idea about this bismuth being brittle. They said, mix a little bit of copper, a little bit of lead, or a little bit of tin in there, and it should make it a much more malleable. So I might try that in the future. But I'll get the rest of this bismuth knocked off of the slag here, and we'll get it in the furnace, see how much gold's in there. So here's something interesting I wanted to show everybody. And what I found is my slag has a bunch of gas bubbles in it. And in those bubbles, there's often little beads of bismuth. And this is the top of the cone mold. And there's a gas bubble right there. I don't know if that's focused. And then there's a bead of bismuth at the top of the gas bubble. See if I can find another one here. But it seems like the bismuth metal, or maybe all collector metal, I haven't seen this before, but maybe specifically with bismuth, it gets caught in the gas bubbles and doesn't collect down at the bottom of the slag. I mean, most of it did. You know, here's our prill, right? But a significant amount, enough that you want to recover it. Like, see, there's a bubble with a little bead of bismuth in it. There's a little piece of bismuth in it. So that's not working very well. That might be an interesting little thing with this, because I didn't pour this in the cone mold. It'll be interesting to see if there's any gas bubbles in here. If I've got a really nice pool of metal down here without any gas bubbles and collector metal spread all through the bottom of it, that might be worth sacrificing a crucible if you can get another 10 or 15% down in the bottom. You don't have to screw around with crushing the slag up, repanning it, resmelting it down. So let's break this one up now and we'll see what we got in there. Oh, brittle as can be. Look at that. Dang it. All right, well, let me think about that for a minute. All right, well, I'll change the plan. I'm going to take this bigger crucible. I'm going to melt all of our slag back down and pour it back into the cone mold, and then I'll make sure the cone mold is cooled off really well before I break the metal off. And this is going to collect all the number 1 again and the little bit that's left over in number 2, and that's really okay. I was a little bit curious to see if there was more in number 1 and number 2, but right now I just want to get the gold out and figure out how much we had in our ore. So that's what we'll do. We'll put this in there. Hopefully there's enough space that that doesn't overflow when it all melts, but we're going to find out. All right, I'm going to try and cool it off in the water to freeze that button so we don't have any shrinkage or anything else. Well, we'll see if that helps. All right, well, let's see what happens here. I've got water down the sides, you can see. The middle's still pretty hot. I dumped some water in there. So my hope is that the point down here is all cool and our metal's solid. Let's see what happens. Whew. Well, that worked. Now let's see, because I chilled it in the water real quick, hopefully that metal button will just pop right off of there. Ooh, it's still red in the middle. You see that? I don't know, I'm chasing all over the place. stubborn. Oh, it's because that nail's in there. That's why. I accidentally lost a nail, so there's a nail attached to the dang thing. Well, I screwed up and got that nail in there, but our button separated really nice from the metal. So I think that quenching thing works pretty good. Well, there must be some lead in there now, because when I hit it, it's all nice and soft, and it won't. I was trying to get it to shatter off of that nail, but looks like I got a lead bismuth alloy, and now it's nice and soft. We're getting closer. Maybe another 10 minutes or so. All right, let's see what we got. I'm not expecting a whole lot, because this is number 2. Let's see what we got in here. Oh, there's a little bead in there. Get him out of there. Nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that guy out, put him in some water, and then I'm going to take this nail in the collector metal, put it in there, put it back in the furnace. I'm just going to reuse this cupel. That bismuth will melt off of there real fast, and then I can just pull the nail out. But let me go get it back in the furnace. Alright, let's have a look here. This is our number 1. I pulled the nail out. Oh, there's a bead there. Let me pull it out of here so you can see it. Alright. Alright, and here's our 2 beads. This is the number 2, and this is the number 1 that we just pulled out. And so now we can weigh both of those. They look like they're about the same size. But get them both weighed, and then we can do a back calculation and figure out how much gold we have in our sample. All right, here's our beads. This is number 2. 0.06, roughly. And here is our number 1. 1.44. So the number 1 is a little bit bigger, but not by a whole lot, surprisingly. About a third bigger, I guess, by weight. So now we can do our math and figure out how much gold is in that Canadian gold mine. All right, and here's the absolute beauty of the metric system. So we have 0.144 grams in our initial 18 kilograms of ore. That's 0.18 metric tons. It's 18 kilograms, right? Because there's 1,000 kilograms in a metric ton. So you divide the grams in the amount of tons, and you end up with 8 grams of gold per metric ton. All right, well, there you go. There's our results. 8 grams per ton. It's not terrible. It's not fantastic. It's about a 1/4 ounce per ton. So there was definitely gold there, but judging by some of those workings and stuff, they weren't really big, and it was a really, really remote site, hard to get into. So they probably just didn't have the grade to continue mining that thing much longer, and it was abandoned back in the day. And I really enjoyed the trip. I really had a lot of fun going in there, but I probably won't go back to that one just because it's so darn far. I got to cross an international border to get there, and the grade's just not that high. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and maybe learned how to process and look at the grade of your ore. This was a real rough kind of seat of the pants estimation, but it gives you kind of that ballpark of, is there enough gold to make it worthwhile, or should I move on to something different? So if you guys have any questions or comments, leave me a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.